So in the midst of the economic chaos that we're experiencing as the time of this recording, which is May 2023, you have still dangerous levels of inflation. You have a banking crisis going on where significant sized institutions are starting to collapse under the economic pressure and investment decisions that have been made. You have, what would be considered wage growth stagnation in the job market. You have consumer spending starting to get hit, savings being drained, credit card debt shooting up. Housing is completely unaffordable. The auto market is still arguably unaffordable. We have a significant level of economic uncertainty and economic strain going on in the overall economy in the United States right now. With that being the case, we have a lot of financial pundits and analysts and other professionals, giving their perspective on what should be done, what the problem is, where people should turn for solutions. Catching an important video that I caught today on Patrick Bet-Davis's channel, Valuetainment, which is a pretty solid channel, generally speaking. There's a gentleman at the time of this recording. The video was uploaded today. I may or may not link it in the description. It's not really quite that serious. I want to make a point about how you need to manage and structure your finances, how you need to be careful about what content you're consuming and how you take that content in when you're studying, financial pundits and content creators, because most of us are very convincing when we know what we're talking about. And the reality is that most of us are right on some level and genuine and authentic, but it may not be for you. And that's not going to be easy to discern when you're watching and consuming this content. So the gentleman that was being a guest on the show at the time was covering mostly the banking crisis and his distrust with banks globally, period. But he was making an argument about how keeping your money in the banking system is such a stupid idea. And he then extrapolated out to explain how he feels and made his case for why the vast majority of most of your money should be in Bitcoin. Now, this is another channel that gets hundreds of thousands of views on average per video, sometimes millions. So I try to cover topics or give commentary responses on these more popular channels, strictly because I know that they reach broader audiences. If you're catching my content, there's an okay chance you're catching some of these larger YouTubers, larger content creators in the finance space. So as another financial professional who's been doing this well over a decade, I'm only in my 30s, and I've still been doing this over a decade, personal and professional experience, licensing and certifications in different aspects of the finance field. I like to give more stable perspective on these topics for your benefit. So the point that I'm making is the gentleman persisted to rant about how stupid it is to trust banks and leave your money in these institutions, and why he goes on to explain why he feels Bitcoin is the best and supreme form of money out there. I'm not going to extrapolate out into Bitcoin itself too much. The number one thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to say a series of things about Bitcoin from a different perspective. Your financial literacy and intellect needs to be on a totally different level to truly invest in something like Bitcoin. I'm even going to throw gold and silver into that mix. Why do I say that? In order to invest and not gamble, you have to have an understanding of currency, the 101 and arguably 102s of overall macro and micro level economics, banking, and investing. All separate categories. You have to have a 101 to 102 level of understanding to get the value and proper context on something like Bitcoin. On top of that, in Bitcoin's case, unlike gold and silver, you need some kind of technical understanding because it is software, cloud type based technology. You need to have at least a 101 level of understanding in a technology aspect as well. So not only monetarily do you need to have a pretty reasonable understanding, again, to invest, not to gamble, but to invest. But you need to have some reasonable level of technical understanding to know what you're getting into. That having been said, with those 4 to 5 metrics in place, if we can agree on that, that wipes out 90+% of the American population. It wipes them out. For as investors into cryptocurrencies, it wipes out 90+% of potential investors. Why? Because most people don't have even 2 to 3 off that list of 5 checked off. If you have a reasonable understanding of tech, you may not have any significant understanding of economics. You have a reasonable understanding of economics, you may not have a thorough understanding or a reasonable understanding of banking. You may not understand how currency works. All of these different mechanisms, investing is a totally different skill set. With that having been said, this is why I think it's very important that every single one of you take in this content, do the research, continue to educate yourself, but don't allow yourself to be overly emotionally engaged in the content unless it's something that you can resonate with. Real estate is a reasonable investment starting level for most people, because the concept of owning something tangible like a home, shelter, and putting it to use for your own primary use, or allowing someone else to live in that space or use it for some type of, living, business, some other form of accommodation, is something that most of us can get our head around. That concept of real estate in its fundamental form is understandable. A rental, even a short-term rental, a commercial rental, an office space rental, all is something the vast majority of us can get our head around. When you start to get into the depths of the stock market, when you start to get in the depths of effective gold and silver investing, Bitcoin investing, cryptocurrency investing, this is absolutely not gonna be fundamental understanding to get into and effectively invest and not lose your shirt, hat, and shorts. It's just not the case. So this video is intended to get you to understand you cannot watch this fear-based financial news and make your financial decisions from it exclusively. You have to logically break down what you're taking in, how it applies to you, your understanding of it, and then apply it to your personal life. Does it, in your personal finances, does it make sense for you? Because if you take this information straight out of one of these videos, you don't have a grasp or understanding of it. You hear this gentleman that was so convincing on this particular video that I caught today, and you strip out 90+% of your money. His ratio is like 98 to 2. 98% in crypto and Bitcoin, and 2% in banks. By the way, this guy's filthy rich, by the way. This is, at least by what was stated on the channel, he's filthy rich, which is another point. Most financial pundits, professionals, and even just investors and business people that are on a lot of these different channels are very financially successful. They can talk about financial moves they can make and how they make them, and it make perfect sense, be perfectly convincing, and it not fit at all for you. Why does this 98-2 ratio make so much sense? If this man is worth, let's just say he's worth $20 million. Let's just say $10 million for even numbers. That means that he's able to take $9.8 million and put it in Bitcoin. If he's that knowledgeable and that comfortable, this gentleman still has well over $1 million sitting in cash in the bank. See how that's different for somebody in that position versus you who may have a net worth of $10,000 or $100,000 in cash? Can you imagine taking your $10,000, the only $10,000 or $50,000 or $100,000 you have, and putting 98% of it in a cryptocurrency that you don't understand, and leaving only 2% in the bank to survive on and function on a daily basis? When you think about Bitcoin, one of his biggest arguments was, well, the government can't do this, the government can't do that, nobody can take it from you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, how do I use Bitcoin on my day-to-day basis? Bitcoin is not a common form of currency. I don't care how much adoption it's getting at the moment. Sure, it's at ATMs, it's at a few different merchants. But pound for pound, Bitcoin is not something you can go into most grocery stores. You can't go buy clothes in most places. You cannot go live your daily life, in most cases, using Bitcoin as your primary form of currency. So that means in order to use Bitcoin for a median exchange of value, as this gentleman was describing, you have to convert it to a legal tender of some sort. So if you have to convert it to a legal tender of some sort, then that would probably mean the government has input on that legal tender. So even if they can't control Bitcoin, you still have to convert it into some type of legal tender that government can control. So is Bitcoin going to be a great investment now or in the future? Possibly, quite possibly. Is Bitcoin going to be one of the best places your money could have been 10, 20 years from now? Quite possibly. I don't have a crystal ball. It's quite possible. But the idea of talking to such a broad audience of everyday people who are looking for financial advice, education, and guidance, and giving this convincing argument that they're foolish for leaving their money in the bank and that they need to hurry up and take their money and put 90+% of it in a cryptocurrency is absolutely insane. So you guys, if you follow this channel, I do commentary videos reasonably often. You already know how I come with these kind of things. You know how I feel about them, how I see them, how I think about them. I am all about reaching people on a fundamental and realistic level. I am all about investments. I'm all about leverage. I am all about leveling up your wealth. I am not about people with 8 and 9 figure net worths getting on channels with audiences of people with 4 and 5 figure net worths or even 6 figure net worths and giving investment guidance or strategies that is completely unrealistic from one economic class to the other. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. I hope you got the value out of this video. I hope you got the value out of this rant. It's a lot of value packed in it. Please be mindful of the information you take in and apply it to yourself. Don't feel pressured to take one of these, really insane, erratic, unrealistic financial strategies or investment strategies or investment vehicles and run off with it because some guy, some smart sounding guy with a lot of money told you it was a great idea or that you're foolish for not doing it. Please be mindful of what you're consuming and how you take it in. As always, I appreciate y'all tuning in. I enjoy bringing you this content. To all my pioneers out there, I want you to stay focused, stay in motion. I'll see y'all soon.
This is JP from Blueprint for Prosperity Network, a channel dedicated to helping you increase your net worth through relationship banking, maximizing your borrowing capacity, the proper use of life insurance, and the ownership of real estate. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm uploading content on a daily basis to help you customize your blueprint for prosperity.